Sean, you've got a new man in, Josh Brownhill. Can you tell us a little bit about why you've gone for him?
I think the obvious one, he's been scouted by departments in some depth over the last few months. Known about him for quite a while. I think he's a good character from what we've learnt. Got a background, had to work hard to get to where he's got to and to get to here. I like that idea and that thinking. Equally, we've done pretty well with players who come in and develop into the Premier League, so there's no pressure on him for to just be the real deal straight away. We want him to learn and enjoy what he does here. And equally, it fits the model of the club, which is not always to put the money out there. It fitted with a player that we could trade, and that fitted as well. So, at this club, that has to be factored in.
In terms of the player himself, how much homework do you do on him?
Yeah, well, we've built a more in-depth recruitment sort of department and system, so we can get more in-depth with that side of the scouting on the analytical side. We obviously do our own homework on the player, no matter where they're from, to find out what they're like. And then we put it all together and piece it all together and decide what they're doing now, where that is. Can they make the jump to the Premier League? Can they perform in the Premier League and keep learning and keep progressing? That's often the way that we've had to look at it here, because our market is different to most.
I guess he'll be desperate to play Sunday against Arsenal. Does he get a chance?
Well, I doubt he'll start. I wouldn't think so. But we'll certainly have him around it. We like I say, they've got to get a feel of it. Got to understand what we do, how the game operates at this level as well. Let's face it, the exposure of the Premier League is so deep now, and so you can access it everywhere. So most players have got a fair understanding from the outside looking in, but it is different when you're out there. So, but we'll have him around the group. He's done a bit of testing today, so to get where his levels are, and then he'll train as normal tomorrow. You've
had good success in the past with taking players from the Championship into Premier League. Is it still a gamble though?
It's always a gamble. Recruitment at any level, you know. As well as I do, we've all seen crazy numbers at time paid for players who didn't work out, and then crazy numbers at the time, and then a year later you think, actually, they were good numbers for a top player. There's no matter how much recruiting you do, no matter how much analysis and analytics you do, all the background checks, there is no guarantees. What you're doing is you're hedging your bets with all that analysis and with all them opinions that you're getting the market more right than wrong. And I think then it's down to the player often as well. The environment you create, the culture, the way that they take it on and they go and learn and improve. So I think there's a mixture.
So you've strengthened midfield, not long to go before the deadline. Would you hope for any more bodies?
I doubt it. Like I say, we've had to balance, the funds, the money's... I'd like to keep quite a bit of it in the bank here, so I don't think there'll be too much coming our way to get more in. There might be situations that open up with different trading type situations, but at this stage, I think it's ear to the ground. If something comes available, as I do, I'll go and ask, is there anything that we can do with it, and see what they say.
Are they open to persuasion? If you say there is the money in the bank, can I have a bit more?
In theory, it works like that. It's not always quite that practical. It's a difficult task, balancing what comes in, what goes out, and finding the way of still, obviously, creating a team that can win. It's a different... the actual business thinking is fair of most businesses, in the sense of most businesses want to streamline. They don't want to put as much in, but they want to get a lot out. And that's certainly thinking here. Now... But you align that with business. The difference with most businesses is they're not judged on a league table. They're not judged in the open constantly, and that's really what fans care about, So it is a balance, finding that balance is difficult. So the business model is correct in a way, a club in very good shape and good financial shape, that's without doubt. Good resources, amounts of money spent compared to the depth of the quality of player we've still got here and what they're worth. But then equally, looking at a league table and saying, is that group, is it capable? Can it get better? Can we improve it? And then balancing that amongst the perception of a club, and that's important because it is out there. That league table's there every week for people to stare at. So I think it's a tricky balance. We've managed to do it for 7 odd years here. We're still looking to do it. We're still looking to improve, but it is difficult because eventually money is needed at this level particularly.
A lot of suggestions this week that maybe Matty Vidra and Ben Gibson might be going out, which might help you to bring somebody in.
Well, it's a strange one. I haven't suggested anything, but everyone else suggests things when you're sitting up here. So, no, I'm not suggesting anything. We'll wait and see.
How frustrating are they finding it, though? Because they don't seem to be getting the game time.
The same frustration as any player who's not playing.
Simple as that.
Yeah, every player who's not playing regularly will be frustrated of some description or another. Sometimes there's a reality to it where they're looking at players who are playing well in their positions. Sometimes they'll have an opinion on that. You can only pick 11. That's the manager's job. They all know that. So you have to deal with the frustrations and get on with being a professional footballer.
Have either of those two players come to you in the last couple of weeks, though, and said, I need to get away in the window?
Players are always coming to me about playing. The rest of it's a different thing, but they come to me about playing match time. So that's the first thing.
Some suggestion again this morning that Umar Niasse might have been on your list for possible consideration.
There's lots of players I've been linked with. I think we're linked with a Turkish player, I believe, who was 28 million, I think, and we'd heavily scouted him, I believe. 28 million. If only.
So at the moment, are you thinking it's unlikely that you're going to add to the group in the next few hours?
Yeah, I think it's unlikely.
Okay. Can I ask you about the weekend? Arsenal, chance for your third successive Premier League win. How good would that be this season?
That'd be fantastic, obviously. You know, putting 2 back-to-back wins and then is hard enough in the Premier League. If you can add a third, then that's a very powerful thing. Anywhere in the division, top, middle or bottom. It's no easy task. You know, Arsenal are beginning to level out a bit under the new manager and know what the expectation is, delivering sort of strong performances. I think we've been, had a blip. I'm pleased it was a blip. We're taking 12 points out of the last 8, despite 4 defeats, 4 wins. So, we're on to something, but it's putting it out there again. It's going and delivering a good performance again. We've got to do all the things right that we do in order to win. And then if a decision goes our way, we can have many of them against Arsenal, that's for sure. So if one of them goes our way, that'll be acceptable in the minimum, I would say.
They're on 30 points like you. Surprised that a team like them, who are always considered to be one of the big clubs, are on the same points total?
Well, it's refreshing in the sense it's difficult. No matter what players you've got, no matter what managers you've got, no matter what perception is of a club, it is difficult. And that probably shows how difficult the Premier League is when a club like Arsenal, with the players they've got, etc., etc., are finding themselves where they are now against where people probably think or thought they should be at the beginning of the season. So, but that's not our concern. Our concern is about us. We look at what we're trying to achieve, the players that we're working with, and all that comes with it. So we really focus on ourselves. And
a win would take you to, 33 points? I mean, safety line just starting to come into sight?
Well, first things first is the next win's the most important one. We don't look too far beyond that. In my opinion, I've always said the end of the season table is the most important one. The rest of it is conjecture during the season. We all talk about the ups and downs, etc., etc. But we've always worked on the basis the next game is the most important one. So that'll be as clear-minded as we've ever been going into this game.
But another 4 wins and you're into the 42-point mark, which most people will perceive as the safety mark.
Well, 4 wins are not easy in the Premier League. It's one of them things. It always sounds easy at the beginning of the season when people say, roughly, you'll probably need 11, 12 wins, and that sounds really simple. Not that simple. The Premier League's a very, very unforgiving league. We've learned a lot about it over the years. We put ourselves, I would say, in a decent position and decent shape at the moment. But it is at the moment. To safeguard yourself, you have to deliver hard and fast performances, and with every detail, technical, tactical, physical, mental, everything has to be in place to go and win games. So we've got to do that, and we have to do that on whenever that game comes around this week. Sunday, 2:00, we'll be ready.
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
You mentioned then about sort of he's recruited and looked at Josh for a while. Has that made that sort of work behind the scenes made this deal a bit easier to get over the line than perhaps it would have done in the past, simply because of the work that's gone on there in terms of...
Not really. I don't think any deal's easy. It still comes down to numbers, in this case a player and numbers, and the balance of that. So it still comes down to that. It often does. All it does is align different targets with more depth than what we've had before.
And obviously Naki's gone out as well. Was there any suggestion that that had to happen for Josh to come in, or were they completely two separate deals?
The chairman and the board do feel there's a balance, to the players we've got here against the market, against what we can bring in. So, we have to work within that as well, or attempt to. It's not always easy, but that's, if it's one out, one in, that always sits better with the chairman and the board, because for obvious reasons, financial reasons. They want to safeguard the money that the club's got, which is understandable in one sense, but as I've spoken about very clearly before, we've got to stretch at some point because it's an unforgiving market. The market doesn't care about our business model. The market cares about, are you winning enough games to do what you need to do? So it is that balance, and it is a hard balance to find.
And obviously you've signed Josh because he's a good, talented footballer, but how important was it as well to get someone of that age bracket as well and character that you mentioned before to come in and sort of fit into it?
Age I'm not too worried about. You know, you want good players. You certainly want players who can learn, and I'm a believer that no matter what age you're at, you can learn, you can still improve. And we had it with Michael Duff here, of course, and Jason Shackle, and the lads who are around that 30 mark, still improving, still performing. Barnes has been a great sign of that. So, but is it right to get the mix? Yeah, of course. We still want that age mixture throughout the group. He's younger, he's hungry, he's learning, and he will learn, and they have to, of course, with the Premier League, and have to adapt to the challenges of it. But that's why he's here. We believe he can.
And on Ben Gibson and Matej Vidra, is that just a case of wait and see if anything materialises from your point of view now?
No, we're pretty much in control of the situation. So anything that we feel would be appropriate, then we'd look at.
And would that be loans or permanence or?
Yeah, there's nothing at this stage to consider really of any worth. So that'll be considered if it comes around our way.
And you're not therefore relying on perhaps bringing somebody in to allow somebody else out. You, in that sense.
No, not at the moment. No.
Thank you. And just on sort of looking ahead to the future as well, I think you've spoken before about sort of future-proofing the squad. You've got, I think, 6 or 7 senior first-team players out of contract in the summer. Are there discussions ongoing with the likes of Jeff and Phil Bardsley?
The discussions there have always been ongoing with players. We have no choice. That's the way it is. You know, it's the chairman's got a chance to think about things, and the board have got a chance to look at deals and what it always comes down to money. This is a club where it always ends up with money. So I could dress it up a million times, but eventually the business has to work. They've made it quite clear that's the way it is. So therefore the players have to fit into that business model. The ones that we can fit in, the ones that we want to fit in, the ones that we think can continue to progress and perform. Of course, we look at their situations slightly earlier. But to be honest, we know the players that are performing here. We know their contract situation, that's to be fair. And we are aware of that. So we monitor it and we work wisely, or as wisely as we can.
And just on Arsenal, you mentioned then you've had a few decisions go against you, perhaps in the last sort of 4 or 5 meetings. I guess if VAR had been in, you'd probably have got a couple of results against them in the last...
Well, if VAR would have been in, it might have been suggested we may have got a bit more, but it wasn't in. So we'll see what on reflection, or not on reflection on the future of the game, whether it changes in our favour. But aside that, you know, they're a good side. We've got to play well. You can't rely on decisions. It just sometimes helpful if they do go your way.
What have you made of them since Mikel Arteta's gone in? Seen any sort of differences, any changes in style?
I think they're going some way towards some of what he's learned from his own career. I'm sure of that, and from working under Pep Guardiola. They certainly want to squeeze the pitch. They get 5 yards out, 5 yards inside. You know, tighter out of possession, but still want to play when they can in possession. So we'll wait and see. You know, it's a radical shift, but I think there's a shift in what he wants, that's for sure. So it's about, you know, yet again being aware, which the players will be, but then going and taking the game on. You know, we're at home at Turf Moor. We've had 2 good results, very important results, but good results and good performances. We've got to go and do that again. We've got to go and perform again, without a doubt.